Home Alone wasn't just a Christmas movie, it was a blueprint for chaos wrapped in tinsel and painted smiles. Beneath the pratfalls and paint cans lived something stranger than anyone expected. A voice actor hired to terrorize through metal. A photograph that never showed a real girl. What looked like holiday magic was actually controlled mayhem. Every gag calibrated between laughter and legitimate danger. These are 15 hidden details you completely missed in Home Alone. Number 1, the opening shows Kevin's fate. The McAllister house is chaos. Children everywhere, voices overlapping, holiday madness spiraling through every frame. And in the center of it all sits Kevin, alone in a sea of color he doesn't belong to. Everyone else wears reds and greens, Christmas hues stitched into every sweater and scarf. But Kevin sits in neutrals, browns, and tans, visually separated from his own family before a single word is spoken. The film is telling you something before the plot even starts. He's already alone. The abandonment hasn't happened yet, but the costume department has already marked him as the outsider. Director Chris Columbus later said the wardrobe choice was intentional, a subtle visual cue that Kevin was never truly part of the family unit to begin with. The isolation starts in the first frame, not the airport. Number 2, the furnace has a real voice actor. The basement is Kevin's nightmare, dark, cavernous, filled with shadows that breathe, and in the corner, glowing orange through rusted iron teeth, sits the furnace. It growls, it rumbles, and at one point it seems to whisper Kevin's name. That wasn't just sound design layered over industrial noise. The production team hired an actual voice actor to record growling dialogue through metallic filters, distorting human speech into something monstrous and unrecognizable. Columbus said the furnace symbolized childhood fears given shape, the irrational terror of objects that shouldn't be alive but somehow feel like they are. The actor's voice was buried under layers of reverb and distortion until it sounded like metal breathing, and it worked. The furnace became one of the film's most memorable non-human characters, a presence that felt alive without ever moving. The terror was real because the voice underneath was real. Number 3, Buzz's room foreshadows the trap finale. Buzz McAllister's bedroom is a disaster zone. Dumbbells scattered across the floor, sports equipment piled in corners, a BB gun mounted on the wall like a trophy. It looks like random teenage chaos, the kind of mess parents yell about and siblings avoid. But every object in that room serves a purpose later in the film. The dumbbells become projectiles. The sports gear transforms into obstacles. The BB gun becomes Kevin's final line of defense. The entire third act trap sequence is built from foreshadowing hidden inside Buzz's disastrous bedroom. Columbus and production designer John Muto planted every weapon in plain sight, disguised as clutter. The film trains you to see junk, so when Kevin repurposes it into artillery, it feels both surprising and inevitable. The room wasn't decorated randomly, it was an armory waiting to be discovered. Number 4, the tarantula scene was filmed without sound. Actor Daniel Stern agreed to let the real tarantula crawl across his face, but only once. No second takes, no safety rehearsals, just one live spider and one chance to capture genuine terror. The crew set up the shot in total silence to avoid startling the animal. No director's cues, no background noise, just Stern's face and 8 legs moving slowly across his skin. The blood-curdling scream you hear in the final cut was recorded later in a sound booth layered over the silent footage. Stern said the silence during filming made the moment even creepier because he could feel every movement, every shift of weight without any distraction. The spider was calm, Stern was not, and the contrast between the silent shoot and the explosive scream created one of the film's most iconic reactions. The terror was real. The sound came later. Number 5, Joe Pesci refused to break character. To stay intimidating, actor Joe Pesci avoided Macaulay Culkin on set and never spoke to him out of character. Between takes, he walked away. During lunch breaks, he sat alone. He wanted Harry Lime to feel like a real threat, not a friendly actor in costume. Culkin said he was genuinely afraid of Pesci for weeks, unsure if the menace was performance or personality. The distance paid off. Marv and Harry feel like real threats, not cartoon villains. Even when cameras stopped rolling, Harry Lime remained dangerous. The method extended so far that Pesci would intentionally avoid making eye contact with Culkin in hallways, maintaining the psychological distance that made their on-screen dynamic feel genuinely unsafe. The fear on Kevin's face wasn't just acting, it was a child responding to an adult who deliberately made himself terrifying. Number 6, Buzz's girlfriend photo isn't real. The photograph Kevin finds in Buzz's room, the one that makes him recoil in horror, doesn't show a real teenage girl. Columbus didn't want to make fun of an actual person, so the production team dressed up a crew member's son in a wig and makeup. They shot the portrait deliberately unflattering, exaggerated enough to land the joke without humiliating a real teenager. The line,
"Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof."
Moment became one of the film's most quoted lines, and the subject of the mockery was safe from real-world cruelty. It was a small ethical choice that protected someone from becoming a punchline. The boy who posed for the photo was later paid a small fee and given credit as an extra, turning what could have been exploitation into a harmless inside joke. The joke stayed in the film, the harm stayed out of real life. Number 7. Angels with Filthy Souls isn't a real movie. The gangster film Kevin watches, complete with gunfire and the iconic
"Keep the change, you filthy animal"
line, was created specifically for Home Alone. It was never a real 1940s noir. The production team shot it in one day using period-accurate lenses, black and white film stock, and vintage lighting techniques to make it look authentically old. The actors spoke in clipped Golden Age cadences, and the set was dressed with props pulled from Warner Brothers archives. The illusion was so convincing that fans still search for the real movie decades later. They email film historians, comb through IMDb, and dig through old studio catalogs looking for a film that never existed. Columbus said the fake movie within a movie added texture to Kevin's world, making it feel lived in and real, and it worked so well that people still refuse to believe it was invented. Number 8. The paint can swing was tested with mannequins. The crew tested the stunt repeatedly using mannequins to estimate realistic force and impact velocity. They rigged the cans to swing at different speeds, angles, and weights, documenting the results with high-speed cameras. The calculations showed that in reality, the burglars would have suffered fatal injuries. Columbus joked later that it was a good thing Home Alone was a Christmas comedy because the physics suggested Kevin was accidentally building traps. The production team calibrated everything carefully to look brutal without crossing into genuine horror. Stunt coordinators eventually settled on a precise swing speed that would register visually as violent while keeping the actors safe, using padding hidden under costumes and carefully choreographed head movements to sell the impact. The line between slapstick and snuff film was thinner than audiences realized. Number 9. Kevin draws his battle plan with his left hand. Macaulay Culkin is right-handed, but Kevin writes the entire trap map with his left. It was an intentional choice by Columbus and Culkin to make the drawing look like a kid's rushed, panicked sketch. The messy handwriting, uneven lines, and smudged pencil marks all came from forcing Culkin to use his non-dominant hand. The result is chaotic, authentic, and exactly what a terrified 8-year-old's battle plan would look like. The map doesn't look professional because it isn't supposed to. It looks desperate. Culkin practiced writing left-handed for days before filming the scene, deliberately keeping his technique rough so the final product would capture genuine childhood urgency rather than practiced penmanship. And that desperation makes Kevin's makeshift war feel real. The messy handwriting isn't sloppiness, it's realism. Number 10. Harry's burnt hand is a hidden running gag. After grabbing the glowing red doorknob, Harry's palm is branded with a large letter M. The mark appears in every subsequent shot where his hand is visible, even ones where it would be easy to miss. Supervisors checked every frame to ensure the injury never magically healed between scenes. In close-ups, wide shots, even blurry backgrounds, the M remains. It's a subtle joke about consequences in a film where injuries pile up like cartoon physics, but unlike most slapstick, Home Alone tracks the damage. Harry carries the brand for the rest of the movie, a permanent reminder that Kevin's traps leave scars. The continuity made sure the audience could track every wound if they paid attention. Number 11. Uncle Frank was supposed to be even worse. Deleted scenes show Frank taking credit for organizing the entire Christmas trip, demanding free champagne on the plane, and openly mocking Kevin's mother for forgetting her son. The performance was so obnoxious that producers cut the scenes during test screenings because he became too unlikable for a family movie. Audiences needed to root for the family's reunion, and Frank's cruelty was poisoning that emotional arc. The version that made it to theaters is still awful, rude, cheap, and dismissive, but it could have been much worse. Actor Jerry Baman later said he was relieved the cuts were made, admitting that playing Frank at full intensity made him feel genuinely uncomfortable about how cruel the character had become. The deleted footage exists in studio archives, a version of Uncle Frank so vile he nearly broke the film's heart. Number 12. Kevin befriends a burglar who isn't evil. One early concept had Kevin encountering a third burglar, a rookie criminal who realizes mid-robbery that he doesn't want the life Harry and Marv are living. Kevin would secretly work with him to sabotage the wet bandits from the inside, turning the heist into a three-way chess match. The character would have added moral complexity, showing that not all criminals are irredeemable monsters, but producers scrapped the idea because they felt the story became too sympathetic to crime. The concept was abandoned in early drafts, and the wet bandits remained purely antagonistic. John Hughes, who wrote the screenplay, later admitted he briefly considered the third burglar as comic relief, but realized it diluted the central dynamic between Kevin and his two main adversaries. The film stayed simpler, cleaner, and less morally complicated. Number 13. Marley's hand bandage changes changes when Kevin confronts him. When Marley talks to Kevin in the church, his bandaged hand is positioned differently than in every earlier scene. The wrapping is looser, cleaner, less bloodstained. It subtly foreshadows his healing, emotional and physical, before it ever happens. The shift isn't an accident. Columbus said the change was intentional, a visual metaphor for Marley opening up and letting go of old wounds. By the time he saves Kevin from the wet bandits, the bandage is almost completely gone. Actor Roberts Blossom worked closely with the makeup department to track the gradual unwrapping across scenes, ensuring the transformation remained subtle enough that most viewers would feel it subconsciously rather than notice it consciously. The injury was never just physical, it was symbolic. Number 14. The film originally had a darker alternate ending. Early drafts featured a final gag where Harry and Marv escape police custody and sneak back to the McAllister house for revenge. Kevin hears a noise downstairs, grabs his BB gun, and prepares for one last showdown. But before he can fire, Marley appears in the doorway holding a fruitcake, scaring the burglars off one final time. The scene was shot but cut during editing for being too mean-spirited for a Christmas ending. Test audiences wanted closure, not another battle. The film needed to end with warmth, not paranoia, so the alternate ending was shelved, and the final cut ends with Kevin safely reunited with his family. The darker version exists somewhere in the vault, a reminder that Home Alone almost didn't let Kevin rest. Number 15. The last shot reveals a forgotten detail. Kevin's dad shouting,
Kevin! What did you do to my room?
Wasn't in the script. It was improvised after Columbus asked actor John Hurd to notice anything new in the final shot. Hurd looked around, saw the destruction, and delivered the line off the cuff. The film ends on a final hidden joke that Kevin still has work to clean up. Kevin's traps left scars on more than just the burglars. The house itself became a battlefield, and someone has to clean up the wreckage. Columbus kept the improvised line in the final cut because it perfectly undercut the sentimentality of the reunion with a dose of realistic parental frustration, reminding audiences that Kevin's adventure had real-world consequences waiting for him. The improvised line became the perfect final beat, a reminder that even victories come with consequences. Home Alone may look like a simple family comedy, but behind the jokes are improvised scenes, dangerous stunts, and hidden details that shaped every frame. From silent tarantulas to fake gangster films, from ethical casting choices to near-fatal physics, the production was as chaotic as the traps Kevin built. The film we remember as a Christmas classic was built on decisions most viewers never noticed, small choices that turned slapstick into something smarter. Which one surprised you the most, and what movie should we tackle next? Because sometimes the truth in holiday films isn't wrapped in bows, it's hidden in the blueprint.